Imagine the phone ringing late one night, an hour when no good news ever comes. You pick up, heart pounding, only to hear a voice you never thought you'd hear again. A voice that shouldn't even exist.
Mom, Dad, it's me.
But the words don't bring joy, they bring terror. Because you buried that voice 15 years ago. This is their story.
It was an ordinary night in an extraordinary way. Mary and Robert sat in their dimly lit living room, the weight of years bearing down on their silence. The air was heavy with a kind of resignation, a quiet routine masking everything they refused to speak of. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight, and Mary sipped her tea absently, her mind drifting somewhere far away. Robert flipped through the channels on the TV, not watching, just occupying himself. Then the phone rang. It startled them both, the sharp sound breaking the delicate quiet. Mary's hand hovered over the receiver. She hesitated, her gut twisting with an inexplicable sense of dread. Robert looked at her sharply, muttering, "Who the hell would call at this hour?" Mary picked up the phone. Her voice trembled as she said, "Hello?" The line crackled for a moment and then a voice spoke. Soft, familiar, impossible. "Mom, it's me." The teacup slipped from Mary's hand and shattered against the floor. Her breath hitched, and for a moment she couldn't speak. She knew that voice, the cadence, the tone. It was unmistakable. "It's Emily," the voice continued, calm and certain. Robert snatched the phone from her. "Who is this?" he barked, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. But the voice on the line didn't falter. "Daddy, it's me. Why did you do it?" And then the line went dead. 15 years ago, things were different, at least on the surface. Mary and Robert lived a seemingly normal life with their teenage daughter, Emily. She was bright, quick-witted, and defiant in the way only a teenager can be. She had dreams bigger than the small town they lived in, dreams that often clashed with her parents' expectations. Mary and Robert were strict, overly so. They called it love. Emily called it control. She wanted freedom, independence, and they wanted safety, order. The house was a battlefield of constant arguments, slammed doors and muffled sobs. Then came that night. It had started like so many others, with raised voices. Emily was furious, pacing her room as she packed a bag. She'd had enough, she said. Enough of their rules, their lectures, their suffocating love. "I'm leaving," she yelled, standing in the doorway with her bag slung over her shoulder. "And I'm never coming back." Robert blocked her path. "You're not going anywhere," he said, his voice low and dangerous. The fight escalated quickly. Shouting turned into shoving. Mary tried to intervene, but it was too late. There was a sickening thud as Emily's head struck the corner of the coffee table. And then silence. Robert stared down at her motionless body, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "It was an accident," he said, almost to himself. "She fell. It was an accident." But accidents don't explain shovels. They don't explain the cold, dark woods in the middle of the night, or the freshly turned earth beneath their trembling hands. They buried her that night together, and they never spoke of it again. The years that followed were a slow descent into a kind of quiet madness. Mary and Robert became ghosts of themselves, moving through life with a heavy, unspoken grief. The house grew darker, the air heavier, as if it too carried the weight of their secret. Mary kept Emily's room untouched, a shrine to the daughter she once was. Sometimes she would sit on the edge of the bed, running her fingers over the faded quilt, whispering apologies to the empty air. Robert, on the other hand, threw himself into work, trying to bury the guilt beneath endless hours at the office. But guilt is a stubborn thing. It doesn't stay buried. At night, Mary would wake to the sound of footsteps in the hall, soft and deliberate. She would hear Emily's laughter, faint and distant, like an echo from another time. Robert dismissed it as dreams, as the mind playing tricks. But he too began to hear things. A voice calling his name, accusing, questioning. "Daddy, why did you do it?" It was Emily's voice. Always Emily's voice. The days following the call are anything but normal. Mary and Robert begin to notice strange occurrences around their home. Small things at first. A photo of Emily, long since stored away in a dusty box, suddenly reappears on the living room mantel. Mary swears she hears footsteps on the stairs at night, but Robert dismisses it as the creaking of an old house. Still, the unease in the air grows thicker with each passing moment. One night, Mary wakes with a start. She could have sworn she heard the sound of a door opening. Shaking Robert awake, she whispers, "Did you hear that?" He groggily shrugs it off, but as they both sit in silence, the faint creak of footsteps echoes from the hallway. Robert grabs a flashlight, his heart pounding, and steps out of the bedroom. The hallway is empty, but there's a chill in the air that wasn't there before. In the kitchen, Mary finds something even more unsettling. A handwritten note on the counter. The handwriting is eerily familiar. It's Emily's. The note reads, "I miss you. Why did you leave me?" Mary's hands shake as she shows it to Robert. "This isn't possible," he stammers, trying to convince himself more than her. But deep down, both of them feel it. This isn't over. Something, or someone, is trying to reach them, and it knows their deepest secret. Desperation drives Mary and Robert to seek answers. They start combing through old belongings, documents, anything that might explain the impossible. Robert pulls out his laptop, researching phone call phenomena, hoping for some rational explanation. Spoofed numbers, glitches, anything. But nothing he finds can explain the level of detail in the voice they heard, the emotion, the familiarity. Mary, meanwhile, finds herself drawn back to Emily's old room, untouched for years. As she opens the door, a wave of memories crashes over her. Birthday parties, bedtime stories, laughter. But the warmth of these recollections is quickly overshadowed by guilt. She steps closer to the bed and notices something that makes her knees go weak. A small dusty flip phone lying on the bedside table. Emily's phone, the one she had with her the night she disappeared. Tears well up in Mary's eyes as she picks it up. It's dead. The battery long since drained, but seeing it again sends a chill down her spine. Robert finds her minutes later, clutching the phone like a lifeline. "This was hers," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "It shouldn't be here. It was with her that night." Robert's face pales. He doesn't need her to say more. They both remember where that phone should be, buried deep in the woods, along with the secret they've kept for 15 long years. The realization is undeniable now. If Emily is dead, who or what made that call? And if she's alive, what does she want from them? The next call came 3 nights later. This time they were ready, if such a thing is even possible. The phone rang and Mary and Robert answered together, their hands shaking as they held the receiver. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was soft, almost amused. "You thought you could bury me," Emily said. "But the truth doesn't stay buried forever." Mary's voice cracked as she whispered, "What do you want from us?" The line crackled with static, and then the voice replied,
"I'm coming home and I'm not alone."
Before they could respond, the line went dead. Then came the knock at the door. It was soft at first, almost tentative, then louder, more insistent. Mary clung to Robert, her breath hitching with every knock. Finally, Robert steeled himself and moved toward the door.
The past has a way of clawing its way back to the surface, no matter how deep you bury it. Was it guilt that haunted Mary and Robert? Or was it something more? Something darker? What do you think happened that night? Was this a story of the supernatural or the psychological? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theories. If you enjoyed this story and want to support more chilling tales like this, please like this video, share it with fellow horror fans, and subscribe to Gazing the Abyss. Every click, every share, every new subscriber helps us continue exploring the shadows. Until next time, remember, Some doors should never be opened. And remember, the abyss is waiting for you.